Hello, everybody, and happy Thursday. Can you believe we're back to Thursday again? It is just amazing how fast the days fly by. Tonight we're using the Cheerful Basket. It is such an adorable stamp set. I just love it. Look at that cute little cat. And it also has some really beautiful dies. You can stamp the basket and cut it out and die cut it with this die, or you could use this die and it has the wood grain in it and then the slats to go across, which is also cute. So we'll be using some of these dies and the stamp set tonight for our cards. Now, before we get started, I just want to remind you that this is the last week to take advantage of the Making Plans collection when you become a demonstrator. Hi, Anna. How are you? So for $99, you get to pick a $125 worth of product, and then Stamping Up will send you this Making Plans collection, which is actually really beautiful. And then secondly, this is the last week to register for my event in New Holland, Pennsylvania. It's on October 7th. This is up at the top of my group, so if you want to take a look at that, but this is the last week to register. So here are the 3 cards I'm making tonight, and I don't really know what I was thinking when I added this ribbon. I actually colored pale papaya. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Pam. Hey, Do. I have so much pale papaya ribbon for whatever reason, and I colored it with mint macaron, and to be honest, I hate it. So I don't know why I didn't think of this first. Tonight, we're going to use the soft succulent ribbon, open weave ribbon for the cards. I don't know what I was thinking. So here's the first card, sending you some get well cheer. So we colored up these hearts, add some die cuts. We're using the Subtles Designer 6x6 Designer Series paper, mint macaron, and basic white cardstock. And on this card, actually what I did is I took the die in this set, and you'll see that it's 4 hearts connected, but each little heart is individual. So I just die cut them on the bottom white layer and then added some red hearts. And then on the second card, I figured I'd have some fun, and I colored up the basket, die cut a handle. I colored up some green apples. Since we did red for the hearts, I decided to do some green apples and added some Wink of Stella. I don't know if you could just, there you go. You can see that Wink of Stella. It looks so pretty. And then added the cat. There is a die for some more apples and stems. And then added one of the vellum square doilies. And then just did a quick stamp of the apples on the inside. Then for the third project, I decided instead of doing a 3D item, school is starting up, so why not make a bookmark? And I actually used the largest of the tailor-made tags with the cardstock and Designer Series paper and ran it through my laminating machine using a thermal pouch, and then just cut it around so it would be a nice sturdy bookmark, and then added some gems on the outside of the laminating. So let's get started. I think we'll start with this card here. I did shorten things up a little bit so I don't keep you so long tonight. So we're going to start with a base of 8.5 by 5.5. Yep, scored it 4 1/4. So we're just going to give that a good fold. And we're going to do it landscape. Then we are going to add a layer of mint macaron. And don't forget, you don't have to keep track of the measurements. I will be posting it tomorrow. It's actually all ready. I just have to do my post. And this is 5 1/4 by 4. And we're going to just layer this down on the front of this card. So I'm going to use, I forgot to fill my seal again. So we're going to use some glue, which is fine. It makes it a little easier. And it allows me a couple of extra seconds to move this layer so I can make sure it's straight. So we're just going to layer this right on the front of the card. Hey, Kathleen, how are you, honey? And then we have a layer of the designer series paper, and this should be 5 by 3 7/8. And again, we're just going to glue this right to the front. Hope everybody's having a good week. It's been crazy busy here, but that's usually the way it goes. It was quiet for a while, and then all the appointments catch up with us. So we had one Monday, we had one Tuesday. Then we're free for the rest of the week. And then we start over again on Monday. So, all right. So now we have the base of our card finished so far. I'm going to now grab another layer of mint macaron. And this is 2 1/8 by 5 1/4. So this is going to fit right across the front of this card. Just the same size as the mint macaron layer on the front. And then I'm going to layer that with the designer series paper. And I chose to use the polka dot side. And this is 2, again, 5 1/4. And again, it's going to fit edge to edge with a little bit showing. Aw, thanks, Kathleen. Hello, Karen. How are you? And then we're going to take a layer of basic white. And this, again, is 1/8 of an inch smaller. So it's 1 1/2 by 5 1/4. And that's a lie. It's a little, I have it a little smaller than this because I wanted to see the polka dots. So let's just put some glue on this and we'll layer this together. So we're just going to put it on this layer, and I'm actually going to hold it up and push it down against the table so with the edge is nice and even. And I'm going to make sure that I have the same amount of space at the top and the bottom. And we might have to trim this a little. Nope, that looks good. And that's going to be popped up on the front of the card. But before we pop that up, I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper. And I'm not going to color the whole thing because I did actually do most of my coloring tonight, so I don't hold you up. But I'm going to take the parts and show you exactly how I did this layer. So I like to put my stamp down and lift it up. This way it doesn't lose its shape. And I have my basic white layer. And like I said, it's 5 1/4 inches long. So that would give us 2 5/8 at the halfway mark. And I'm just going to make a little mark right in the center. And I'm going to grab my Memento. And I'm going to ink it up. Thankfully, these are photopolymer, so we can see through them. And I am going to use that mark to stamp my first set of hearts. You'll notice that the edges of the hearts on the bottom are in a straight line, even though the hearts aren't closed. So we're going to line that up at the bottom edge, and we're going to try to get it as close to this center line without going over as we can. So we're just going to line this up, see that it is pretty close to where I want it, and we're going to give it a good stamp. And then there's our first set of hearts. And you'll notice here's the mark. And then we're going to ink up again, and we're going to stamp this on this side here, again using that center mark and getting the lines of these hearts right at the edge. And we're going to give it a good stamp. So now we have our layer of hearts. Now you'll notice, even though I'm coloring with blends, I do use Memento. I have StazOn. I like using Memento. I never have a problem. Hi, Diana. I never have a problem when I color using Memento and blends. The reason being is, now that this is stamped, I would allow this to dry for a few minutes. You'll notice when you're looking at your stamped image, see, it is still a little wet. Do you see how that pulled the color right there? So it is a little damp yet. If you're impatient, you can use your heat gun to dry it up a little bit. You can blow on it a little bit. But I usually stamp it and let it sit. Where we don't have time to let it sit right now, I'm just going to grab my blends that I used, and I'm going to show you how I did my hearts. I started out with the dark cherry cobbler and used it for all the areas that would be deep in the image. You can see that these hearts are piled one on top of another. So whatever is deep in this image is going to get the dark cherry cobbler. So I'm going to add some here. I'm going to add some here. I'll add some right here. Definitely add some here. And I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow here. And then I'm going to add some right here. And we're going to add some right in this corner. So to me, those are the deepest areas of this image. And I'm just going to pull this. I can't get the words out. Yeah, I'm tired today. That's why I got up so early today. Okay, so now I have my deepest, darkest shadows set. So now I'm going to grab my dark real red. And if you've been here before, you know that on the edge of my image, and I'll use, say, the heart, I always leave a white band of color around the edge. If you do my Patreon class, I explain that a lot. Only because where I have this really dark, I don't want to add another dark color on the other side of this line. I want the brightness or the light color to show up more than this color here for my highlight. So taking my dark real red, I'm going to extend this color, and I want a shadow, but I don't want it right up against this heart. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. I'm just going over that cherry cobbler and extending it out. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I am going to touch it at this bottom, but with these hearts next to it, I'm going to leave a space. I'm going to leave a space between these two, but I'm going to add a shadow to extend that color. I'm going to pull this color up, leaving an edge. And then I'm just going to do that to each and every heart. Going to go over that edge. I'm going to fill this one in completely because that's really sitting back. This one, we're going to add a shadow, and then we're just going to do a little bit of an outline. Same here. We're going to add that shadow, but we're going to add a little bit of red color. So I would do that to each and every heart. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Kathy. Kathy with a K and Kathy with a C. How are you tonight? Okay, so let's get rid of that one. Now I'm going to grab the light real red. And like I've said before, if you color a layer, I see a little piece of hair. If you color with the light red and let that dry, it's going to be one color. If you color over it again, it is going to darken up your original layer. Okay, so you're going to color, let it dry. It's going to be one color. If you go over it again, it's going to darken it up. Okay, makes sense because you're adding additional layers. So what I want to do is I want to go over the edge of this dark real red with the light, and I'm going to leave that edge lighter. And we're going to go around and do this to each and every heart. Go over that dark real red. Go over the edge of that dark real red with every single heart. And it will, as it dries, that edge will go away. So I'm leaving an edge. Just getting those colored in. Now, as they're drying, these colors will melt together. Now I'm going to take, and you know I don't use the brush that often, but this will allow me to fill the heart with just a stroke. You know, instead of rubbing, I can stroke it. So I'm going to go over the whole entire heart. I'm not going to color. I just want to wash this color over the heart. And I go heart by heart. I don't go over everything. I don't go over the black lines. I am going to color in each heart individually. And it's very, very subtle. But where we colored underneath in the center, it's going to be a little darker than that outside edge. It's very, very subtle. Huh? How's the hubby? Oh, it's been one of those weeks for sure. We have, we've seen palliative care, and we've been getting all our ducks in a row. We are now waiting for the urologist to call us back. They were supposed to call on the 1st of August. I have called them 3 times already. And apparently the woman who schedules his surgeries cannot schedule the surgery until the doctor writes an order for it. And of course, he has not written an order for it yet. So my husband is really upset, and his PTSD is in overdrive lately. So it's been a rough couple days. All right, so now our hearts are colored, and the lighting is horrible, but you will notice that there is shadow. I would go over it again if I was doing this on my own, by myself. So now I'm just going to take a gel pen, and where the artist has these lines, that's where I'm going to add a highlight, because that's really what those lines are signifying. You would put a dark color under the first, and I put my pens away, but this little line here, this would be colored dark in the front, and this line here would be colored light behind it, and then there would be a white streak in between. That is how the artist would tell you that there's a highlight here. So I'm using my gel pen, and I'm just adding a white line in between those 2 black lines. And once you're done, you'll have a piece with all your hearts colored. No, it's still going on. All you have to do is go to my blog. It'll say Gal Friday's Essential Toolkit. Hey, Marilyn, how are you? All right, so now we have our hearts colored. I'm going to take my sentiment, and again, I like to lay it down flat and then lift it up with my block, and I'm going to pull my memento in again. And thankfully, these are clear, so I get to see through it. I'm just going to ink this up, and I'm going to line this up about in the center and give it a stamp. So there is our sentiment. Now we can pull in our card base. I'm going to adhere this to this layer here, and it's going to go from edge to edge. So I'm just going to lift it up and push it down, and I'm just going to inch it up a little bit. Make sure it's glued on really well. Now, before we put this on the front of our card, like I said, I'm switching out and using the soft succulent. And if you know me, I don't like wrapping and tying a bow, so I cheat. I'm going to cut my length of ribbon, pull in my glue dots, and I'm just going to put a glue dot on each end of the ribbon. And I'm this little edge here where it is not as transparent or see-through, I'm going to line that up right with the edge of that basic white layer. So it's going to hide the edge of that paper. And we're just going to tuck this up and under. I'm going to trim this little edge off here because I can see it through the front of the card. Just like that. Let's grab some dimensionals. I'm going to use the edge so we can get rid of these. And we're going to pop this up onto the front of the card. I thought it was cool in my room tonight, and it's actually quite warm. I may have to put the fan on. As you know, my craft room is the only room in the house that is not air conditioned. All right, so now we want to add this to the front of our card. And I want it to be centered. And that looks like it's pretty straight. And then we're going to take another length of ribbon. And we're going to tie a bow. So we're just going to hold this between our thumb and our pointer. Take this tail, go between our fingers, underneath this one right here, and back through our fingers. Keeping your tail so it is not curled, you're going to take the end, put it through the left side of that loop, and pull it out the right side of that loop. And then you can tighten up that bow. And the tighter you make this knot in the center, the fluffier your little loops are going to be. Now you'll notice that the loops are not even, so you can pull on the left-hand tail to make that loop a little smaller. And then we're just going to pull our tails down and then give them a trim. And grab those glue dots. And we're going to add it right to the center between the two set of hearts. Just like that. Now, like I said, I took that little die with the 3 or 4, I think it's 4 hearts, and I die cut some real red. I'm going to use I got to turn these over because there is a right and a wrong side to the hearts, and you won't miss why or how they're different. And I'm just going to add some glue and then adhere some of these hearts. And I'm off the camera. Right to the front. 3 up there. Then we'll put 1, whoops, let me move that over a little bit. Let's add 1 here. These 2 we'll save for the inside of the card. And then we're going to grab some champagne. Oh, a pearl. Some champagne rhinestones. And I'm going to use the smaller ones. I'm going to add, didn't even lift it up. 1, 2, and then I'm going to grab a large one and put it right down here at the bottom. And then a second large one, and we're going to add it to this corner over here. So there is the front of your card all finished. Now for the inside, we're going to grab a layer that I think this is 5 3/8. Nope, 5 1/4 by 4. And like I said, I die cut I laid the die down. It's a cute little 4-heart die. So I just laid it down, ran it through, and it cut out the little hearts so we can see the mint macaron through. So we're just gonna, and I'm gonna do this easy because I don't really like using glue on my white layers. We're going to layer this down. And then I'm going to add a dot of glue on each corner. And pick up our heart. And another one. And add it right to the inside. Just going to get that little bit of glue off there. And let's pull in our card. And add some more glue. There we go. And there is card number 1. Definitely like this bow better. Thanks, Marilyn. Oh, because I didn't twist it too. Thank you, thank you. So there is card number 1. So let's jump to card number 2. We're going to again start with I'm going to make some room here. We're going to start with our basic white layer. Only this time it's 11 by 4 1/4. And it's scored at 5 1/2. So there's our card base. I'm going to move the camera up just a hair. And then again, we're going to layer the front with mint macaron, 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and designer series paper. This time we're going to use the polka dots, and that's 5 1/4 by 4. So we're just going to layer this on the front of our card. Oops. And the same thing with this. I don't know if I was told you last week about our hornet problem. The exterminator came and they are all gone. Actually, I think they're actually called cicada killers. They are those big ground hornets. They're nasty little suckers. But they're gone, thank goodness, because Bill's allergic, so he couldn't even go out the back door. All right. So now I am going to grab one of the vellum doilies. You know, I forgot to check. I don't think these are even available anymore. And I forgot to check my catalog. But I'm just going to add some glue. You see the glue through the vellum. You have to remember that. So I'm just going to add it to the center. And I'm going to center this on the front of the card without measuring. So I'm just going to eyeball it. And we're going to glue that down. And then we're going to take a layer of mint macaron, and we're going to use the plaid side, and we're going to adhere this right to the front of the card. So let's glue this down. Move that out of the way. And I forgot to give you the measurements. Let me just get this glued and I'll measure it for you. Oops. Let's see. The mint macaron is 7/8. They're both 4 inches long, and the pattern DSP is 3/4. Okay, so we have this lined up. I'm just going to grab my scissors. I'm just going to trim that DSP just a little bit there. And then we're going to add some glue. And we're going to put this right across the center of this card. And it lines up with the edge of the designer series paper. So let's just make sure that this is on here straight and that it's adhered down. So here's the start to our card. Now this one, I'm going to pull in a piece of basic white cardstock. And I'm going to grab the basket. And I'm going to grab my soft suede. So I'm going to ink up my soft suede. And there is the basket. Now I do have one colored. It's right here. But I want to quick show you what I did so you'll know and you'll be able to try and mimic it. I first grabbed the dark gray granite and I went under the first section, the second section, and the bottom of this front piece. Then I came down these wider pieces of this bushel basket. Because if you've ever seen a bushel basket before, the slats have a space between them. So these shadows are the inside of the basket. Then I took the dark soft suede and I went over that gray wherever I put it. I just wanted to darken up that shadow. If you want to see highlights, you need to have shadow. Then I'm going to take the light soft suede. I am going to, and I should have done this too. This is the dark suede again. These lines, nope, that's bronze. I picked up the wrong one. I'm just going to darken up these lines. Okay. The light soft suede, I am going to extend these lines. I'm going to add some on this side. And I'm going over the handle because you'll notice on the card, I actually die cut a handle out of copper foil paper. Hi, Betty. Hi, Pamela. Thanks, Margaret. Thanks, Karen. You like to make your cards this way? Awesome. And then I cut it out again in early espresso to add the handle. So you'll notice it's two different papers. So we're just going to extend the color with the light. And we're going to bring this across the bottom. And then we're going to extend this shadow just a hair. And then we're going to make color over these lines. And I'm not being fussy. I'm just going over the lines. And then I'm going to add this as the top shadow. Extend this bottom shadow. Color the lines. And I would take my time when I'm doing this, but just so I can show you pretty quick, this is the top shadow. I'm just going to extend that a little bit, just like that. Then I took the light crumb cake, and I'm going to extend this color again. For the basket here, I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to extend this color. We don't really have to worry about seeing lines in your coloring because it's wood. So now I'm going to take the brush end and I am going to color in the whole section. And I'm going with the grain of the wood. So if you do see lines, it looks like it's part of the pattern. And then we're just going to color that. And then come down. And then fill in the bottom. And then you have your basket. Okay, so let's put that aside. So here's our basket. Now, well, actually, I can use this piece again. So now for the basket, we need apples. So we're going to grab the apples. We're going to grab some Memento, ink it up, and give it a stamp. Now, like I said, where I did red hearts, I figured we'd use it and do green apples. And I actually, as crazy as this sounds, I'm going to use Dark Daffodil Delight, Light Old Olive, and both Parakeet Party. Now, this is probably not completely dry, but again, using my darkest color, and you know what? That's really not dark enough for me. So I am going to start with the dark old olive, and I am going to add my shadows. So this dark is going to go wherever it would be the deepest, just like the hearts. Then I'm going to take the light old olive and I'm just going to extend that color out, going over the edge and just extending that color out. And I would probably do this one and get under this leaf. Okay, so wherever you're going to add a shadow. Then I'm going to take my dark Parakeet Party and I'm going to extend it even further. Now the colors don't match, but I'll show you what we're going to do. I'm going to leave that edge. So I'm just extending this out, going over the edge of that old olive. And I want to leave an edge, so we'll color that in. Just like that. Then I'm going to grab some Daffodil Delight. And on the ones I've already done, I'm going to just add a little splash on the left-hand side. Just like that. Then I'm going to take the light Parakeet Party. And I'm going to wash over the whole entire apple. So I'm going to color that apple completely in, going over everything. It's still wet, so once it dries, these colors do blend together. And then once it is fairly dry, I took my Wink of Stella and colored apple for apple, trying not to go over the black lines, the outlines. So I colored in my apples, and this is what I got. Nice shiny group of apples. I think I've said lots and lots of times, it looks pretty close, but you will never, you can take the same 3 or 4 blends, same colors each and every time, and stamp this basket 2 or 3 times, and you will not color it the same way twice. It won't happen. Your mood changes, your hand gets tired, everything. Your coloring depends on your frame of mind. If you're nervous and it's upset, or you're happy, your coloring will never be the same. Plus, this basket is still on a white background, so you're picking up the color of the basket. So if I was to cover this up with a darker color, the basket would look darker. And I don't even really, well, let's see, we'll use this. So if you take away this white, the basket is going to look darker, believe it or not. That's why when I talk about, and I don't have any color here. Let me grab something. That's why I always say, in order to see your highlights, you need dark. So here's the basket with the white covered pretty much. And then here's the basket without the color there. It does look different. Okay? Same with the apples. Same colors. I colored these apples the same exact way as I colored these. And I colored it the same as I colored these. So, same colors, same person. They all came out completely different. That's just the way it is. No rhyme or reason. All right, so now we have our basket and we have our apples. We're going to pull in another scrap of white and our memento. And let's pull out that cat. And I'm just going to put the cat on the other side of this basket and ink it up and just stamp it right there. And of course, like I said, I would let that dry for a little while before I colored. Now for the apples, I die cut 2 apples out of Parakeet Party. And I cut out 2 stems and leaves in Mossy Meadow. I stamped and die cut the butterfly. And let's look at our cat. But first, let's look at our apples. I'm going to take my dark Parakeet Party and I'm just going to come up on the bottom on both of them, just adding some shadow to the bottom. And I'm actually going to add a place for that stem. Then I'm going to grab my light Parakeet Party and I'm just going to extend this around and up. So we're just going to extend this color just up and around, just like that. Just a little bit of color. Yeah, it could be due that it dried too, but it changes whether it's on a white background, a dark background, being die cut. There's so many different variables. And then I'm just going to color them over with some Wink of Stella so they have a chance to dry before we add the little stems. So there's our apples. All right. So let's grab our cat here. And we're going to just do a quick little thing on our cat. This is light flirty flamingo for his for his ears. And then I'm going to take some light, no, don't want light basic black, wrong color. Let's see where it is. Nope. Light smoky slate. And I'm going to add my shadows. So I'm going to go around the outside of his ear, under his neck, along the side of his legs, and back up, where his tail is behind his leg, around his foot, and then we're going to do the bottom of his feet, just to add a little bit of shadow. And then all I did was I took the dark and light gray granite, and with the dark, all these little lines that the artist drew, I actually just scribbled over these lines. Oops. Let's just grab that marker again. I forgot the top of his foot. So we're just going to scribble these lines that the artist drew. And that was with dark granite. Then I took the light gray granite and I added color and scribbled this underneath that dark on each little patch. Just underneath, I scribbled along to color in the cat. And then here he is, okay? So I just scribbled over the artist lines. Aw, thanks, Rita. Hi, Sue. I love to color. And you just learn so many tricks along the way. Okay, so here's our little cat. So he's pretty ready. And then I die cut using the gingham DSP, a little, I guess it's a cloth or a towel that's going to hang over the edge of the basket. And like I said before, I die cut the handle in copper foil. And then I die cut it a second time in early espresso. And all I'm going to do is grab my scissors, and I'm just going to cut the ends off of this early espresso handle. Here's our handle here. I'm going to lay down a little bit of glue and grab my pokey tool, and we're just going to add this piece to the handle. So let that dry. So while that's drying, let's pull in our apples. And I'm actually going to just, let me clean that off, put a little dab of glue right at the top of these apples. And let's, oops, add the stem. Whoops. These pieces are so tiny, and there is a right and wrong way. Okay, so now our little apples are ready. Let's pull in our card base. I have to still color my little butterfly. And just give me a second. I'm going to turn this fan on, get some air moving in here. It's getting warm. Oh, might help if it was plugged in. All right, there we go. All right, so we're pulling in our card base. We are going to start with the basket. If you remember, I think last week I mentioned that the foam strips are a little wider than our dimensionals. It's It's not a lot, but it's noticeable if you mix and match these and you want the layers to be even. I don't want my layers to be even. I want the basket to stick out further than the apples. So I'm going to take my basket and I'm actually going to use the foam strips. And I'm going to put one towards the bottom and one in the middle. And then I'm just going to grab one more. And I want to put it towards the top, but I don't want it at the edge. So I'm just going to pull it down a little because I want to tuck those apples under this basket. So let's just peel these off. And we're going to put this, I'm going to put the edge of this basket just about 3/4 of the way up that designer series paper. So I can still see the doily through the bottom. Okay, so there's our basket. I'm going to grab this little cloth and we're going to add some glue and we're going to center this right along the top of this basket. Just like that. And then I'm going to grab my handle. I'm going to put a little spot of glue on each end and in the center. And then I'm going to line it. You'll see the handle on the image. So you just want to line this up. And you could even push it up a little further, and that would be a shadow. But we're just going to adhere that right to the basket. Okay? Yeah, this set is cute. I really bought it just for the cat. I love my cats, and that's really why I bought it. Now for the apples, I'm going to use our dimensionals. Just like I said, it is just a tad smaller, or thinner, I should say, than those foam strips. And I'll show you when I get this put down on the front of the card. So I'm just going to take it. I want to just put it underneath that basket ever so slightly and then push it down. Now you'll notice, let me see if I can get this. It is just a hair. I mean, it is not even a lot, but you can see that there is this little tiny space between the basket and the apples, ever so slightly. I mean, it's probably a 1/16 of an inch, but it does make a difference when you, hey Sherry, this stamp set is the Cheerful Basket. And then it comes with the dies in a bundle, full basket dies. Now remember, when you purchase the stamp set and the dies together, you get it at a 10% discount. So it's always worth it. All right. So now we have our little apples. I want to put one apple down on the card, the front of the card itself. And then I'm going to add a bit of glue again, and I'm going to take the other apple and I'm going to put it at the base of this basket, just like that. Okay, now we have our basket. Let's grab our cat. I want him the same level as this basket. So I'm going to have to grab a foam strip. Now he's going to sit here, so the foam strip has to go on the right-hand side of this cat. So we're just going to lay this down, looking at him. It's the right-hand side. And then I also want him overlapping the basket. So we're just going to add a bit of glue and lay him down just like that. For the little butterfly, I didn't do, well, time to take your medicine, ladies. I should tell tell Bill, send Bill a message. Make sure he took his medicine. I'm doing dark pumpkin pie, and all I'm doing is coloring. I'm not doing anything too crazy for his wings. And then I'm going to take light pumpkin pie and just fill in those little spots. Everywhere I look, I have embellishments sticking on something. And then all I'm going to do is take this little butterfly where his body comes out. I'm just going to give it a fold and just smush his little wings a little bit. I'm going to add the glue to his body. And we're just going to stick it right there. And now let's grab some embellishments. If I can remember where we put them. Here they are. So we're going to take a little one and stick it. Let's stick it here by the butterfly. And then we're going to take a large one, put it down here in this corner, and a medium one, and we'll put it over here by this cat. And then we'll take a small little one. Whoops, didn't pick it up. And put it between these apples. And one more. All right, so there's the front of our card. Lots and lots of little elements, but so cute, right? And then for the inside, you don't have to keep track, but I just like to tell you, it's 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, 5 1/4 by 4. Don't forget, ladies, I'll have the PDF by noon tomorrow. It probably will be there even earlier. It's all done. I just have to finish my blog post. So we're just going to grab those apples, ink them up. We're going to do very simple on the inside of this card. So we're just going to stamp the apples right along that edge. Let's close this up so I don't make a mess. Grab our base. Add a little bit of glue. Hopefully we won't see it through the cardstock. And then let's just add some glue. And we can add it to the center of the card. All right, so there's card number 2. Easy peasy, right? There we go. All right, now for the third thing, like I said, I did a bookmark, and I'm using mint macaron 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. And believe it or not, I got ahead of myself, and I actually did add the DSP, and this is 4 1/8 by 2 1/8, and that's our square. Then I die cut the largest tag in tailor-made tags. And I'm going to grab this school, or this crafting, they're actually crafting supplies, but they could be school supplies. There's nothing on here that would say otherwise. And I'm just going to grab my Memento again, ink it up, and using this stitch line, I'm going to the right of this so I can get my sentiment in the corner. I'm going to use that line as my guide. And I'm going to stamp this right on this tag. Just like that. Okay. All I did was grab some blends and colored. I used mint macaron. I used the black. I used granite gray. I used midnight, night of navy. I used, what else did I use? I'm looking, fresh freesia. And I colored everything just very simple. Okay, Calypso Coral. Just like that. Colored it really simply. And then I figured inspired by you was the perfect sentiment for someone who's reading. And we're just going to pick that up. We're going to grab some mint macaron, ink it up, and we're just going to add our sentiment. Okay, we can pull in our card base, and all I did was adhered this together. And I can't even finish it because I didn't put on my laminator. But once you have that colored and layered, if you have a laminator, you would take your thermal sleeve. See if I can get this open. And put it in as far as you can get it and run it through. Now, I will tell you, there's 3 layers of paper here. So I ran it through this way, and then I ran it through this way in order to get a nice, clean edge. And then I just trimmed around, added my embellishments, and we're actually going to remove this ugly ribbon. It's pale papaya colored with mint macaron. I mean, it would be perfect for a different card, but not this one. Not this color. It just does not match. So what we're going to do is, I think I want to feed it through the front. So once it was laminated and cut, I punched a hole. We're going to feed our ribbon through. And I'm coming through the front, and I think that's the way I want to go. And we're just going to hook our ribbon. Nope, that's not the way I want to go. I want it to look, that edge to look neat. So we're going to let's see how it looks going through the back. Yep, I think this is the way. And then pull it through. Whoops. I missed that one tail there. So let's pull this through. Let's straighten it up a little bit. Make it a little neat. Let's trim these edges. Okay, then after it laminated, I put my embellishments. Okay, so that would be the way you would make your little bookmark. Hey, Elizabeth. Oh, that's fine. Oh, you're welcome, Rita. So, ladies, here you go. Card 1. And card 2. And then our bookmark. So, I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you learned something new tonight. I'll be back on Saturday, hopefully, as long as God willing and the creeks don't rise and nothing happens crazy. I'll be back on Saturday with this simple Saturday card. Remember, if you would like to take advantage of my reward club, oh, I forgot to pull my card. Oh, here it is. If you'd like to, here is the first technique card. You have to make a 6-month commitment of $25 a month. And at the end of 6 months, I didn't even pull that out either. Crazy. I don't know why I didn't. But at the end of the 6 months, you would get the make and take for this card, a recipe sheet, and I do have a picture for it in my group. Oh, here it is. You would get the make and takes for this card. You would get a photo album, and I'm going to pull this up a little, that would hold recipe cards, because you would get a recipe card each month that looks like this. It'll have a picture of the card and the technique underneath with the recipe. And at the end of the 6 months, you would get this photo album, and you would be able to insert all your recipe cards in your album. Plus, I will give you a $30 voucher to go shopping in the store. So if you're interested and you want more details, head over to galfridaystamping.net. Across the top, there's a tab that says Tip and Technique Card Club, and you can get all the information. So have a great night. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Kathy K and Kathy C. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sue. Oh, you're welcome, Margaret. Thanks, Sheila. And I'll see everybody on Saturday. Have a great night. Stay safe. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Do you have to sign up online? All you have to do is send me an email that you'd like to participate. Hi, Louise. Thank you. Have a great night, ladies. Bye-bye.